Hello and welcome to this first tutorial video on how to make wigged stylable hair for your ragdoll. I'm using a 100-gram ball of double knitting yarn. That will give me roughly 200 to 240 meters. You'll also need a matching thread and a needle. My doll's complete. I've sketched her face on ready to paint later. And we're going to be adding yarn just to this back section of the head. That seam forms a nice divide, so we're going to go all around there and around this curve on the neck, going behind the ears. So we'll start off by marking the very top where the seams meet and the base here where the seams meet, and then we're going to add a pin roughly in the middle of those two, which is about there. And then we're going to subdivide those by adding a pin in the middle of these two and another pin in the middle of these two. Now this one's going to be a little tricky for you to see while I'm at this angle, but I'm now going to put 2 pins in between those two, like that. So 2 pins in the first section, all equally spaced as best you can. And again 2 pins here, two pins in between these two. Listening to the seagulls, busy today. There, and now 2 pins in between the bottom two. That gives me 13 pins in total. And then I'm going to do the same going the other way, so at the back of the ear, at the back of this ear, and I'm going to do the same using the pins that I've already put in place to mark the centre. I'm going to put a pin roughly in between those two, so there, maybe a little further across. And then in between those two, so roughly there, and then in between each of those sections 2 pins. So again I have 13 pins going across the back of the head. These are a little more widely spaced than the others, but it doesn't matter. They're just guides. And the last 2, just there. Okay, so 13 pins going across and 13 pins going down. And what we're going to do is spiral following those and using them to mark our position to try and help spread it out evenly. I'm going to start at the back of the neck, and using my matching thread, I've doubled it up to give me extra strength. And I'm going to tie a really secure knot because I don't want it to come undone and everything to unravel. It's worth, as you're going along, doing a few knots. I'm going to do back stitch, quite small back stitch, probably about 4 millimeters. And I'm going to go all the way around. On this section, from the base of the neck up to behind the ear, I'm actually going to cut off the corner, so I'm going to do a curve going around. So little back stitches. I will speed this footage up so that you don't get desperately bored watching me do this. So little back stitches, and I'm going to take them all the way up in a curve To make it a more natural kind of hairline, I'm just cutting off this corner. And I'm going to go behind the ear. The reason I go behind the ear is that my doll's not going to have sideburns. So we carry on our back stitch behind the ear. I've just removed that pin. And when I get above the ear, I'm actually going to skip across the seam, and I'm going to go to the face side of that seam, so that when I put the hair in, if I pull the hair back, it's going to hide that join between the front and the back of the head. So I'm just to the face side of that seam. I carry on with my back stitch. This crown of stitches is going to give me the base for all of the hair to be attached, so I want it to cover that row along the seam as well. I want that seam covered. And I'm going to continue this process all the way around the head in a spiral, using the pins to mark the position of each circle. So once I've completed this first circle of stitches all the way around the head, then the next circle is going to be in between the pins. So the first one runs along here with the pins all the way around behind the ear here, all the way around, and the next one's going to go in between that and the next pin. So once I've gone all around in between the pins, so it's first on the pin, then in between, and then on a pin, and then in between, so I get this spiral all the way around. As long as it looks roughly like this and you've got a nice covering of stitches, you'll be fine. Don't be too precious about it. Make sure you go behind the ear and over that seam there, to the front of that seam there. Keep those rows nice and evenly spaced, nice and tight, and that's going to give you a nice even base to attach your yarn. For that you're going to need either a very fine crochet hook like this, or just a piece of bent wire, just quite sturdy wire that you've bent over a little bit at the end. You're going to be passing that through each stitch, and in the next video I'll show you how to attach the yarn. That concludes our tutorial video. I hope it's been helpful. If it has, please subscribe. We'd love your feedback and a like. There are more videos coming soon.